you have to know arboriculture. You have to know trees. You have to know what you're doing. So if you're in this line of work, then you have to know what you're doing. You can't just go out there and just start a tree service and not know what you're doing. You can't do certain things and not know what you're doing. There's a lot that can come along with that. You might get somebody killed. You might get yourself killed. You might set a tree up for failure. You might do something really horrible to a tree, and then that tree winds up failing and killing somebody or crushing something. So you have to know what you're doing. And so this is really important because we talk about the soft skills of leadership and management and reading books and culture and numbers and mission statement, making a profit, being professional, being safe and all that. But when it comes down to it, you still have to know trees, okay? So if you don't know trees, then you don't need to be in the tree business. And so I know there are some people, they're just number guys, or this is just an investment, or this is just a way to make money or whatever. And I'm telling you, don't do that, okay? Don't just jump out there and think that you're going to start a tree service because, it's a great way to make money or whatever, right? I 100% believe that you have to know the kind of business that you're in. And this is not just for a tree service. If you're in landscaping or if you are an accountant, you have to know what you're doing. You're going to screw up somebody's tax return and their bank account and everything else. If you are, if you own an ice cream stand, then, if you don't do things right, then your stuff is going to mildew and people are going to get sick. If you're a plumber and you screw up, it's not just about things not going downhill or backing up. Like, you can have dangerous gases coming into somebody's house and actually kill them or really poison somebody. If you're a really crappy electrician, don't know what you're doing, you could burn a house down. So the same thing with arboriculture. You have to know the science. You have to know trees. Now, obviously, there's varying levels, and I think that that's going to tie into what type of business that you're in, right? So if you know and you're really good at running a saw and you know how to do removals and you can keep everybody safe and you can do those without breaking things, then that might be the right business for you. But just because somebody's willing to pay you money to go prune a tree, if you don't know how to prune, then don't go do it. Don't screw the tree up. Don't screw the client over. Don't just go do things to make money. And definitely don't do it just because a client asked you to. But there's a lot that comes along with it. And I think probably improper pruning is probably the most common thing that you see in this industry. And the dangerous part is people think they know what they're doing, or maybe they were taught a certain way by somebody that still didn't know what they were doing. But if you don't know what you're doing, and this is legit, if you don't know what you're doing, then stop. Don't do that, okay? And it may mean that you need to get out of business or put things on pause or study or pass up jobs or something, because if you go and you improperly prune a tree, and let's talk about a few things that you can do with improper pruning. And we're not going to talk about everything with pruning or everything with arboriculture or everything else, but just throwing this out there because this is something that happens quite frequently. If you cut off a really big limb, then that limb is going to decay. Okay, now depends on species, but around 4-inch diameter for most species. So, once you start cutting limbs larger than that, they're going to decay back to wherever you cut it. If you cut off at the trunk, then you're going to be decaying at that trunk. Yes, you got paid to cut that limb off. Yes, the client wanted that limb to go away, but now you've got decay as a result of that. And now the tree is going to become weaker in time based on something that you did. You screwed it up. Okay, lion's tailing. And you can say whatever you want about, oh, it's not lion's tailing, it was thinning or whatever. But lion's tailing is pretty easily defined. And when you start stripping out the interior branches, or you start overlifting the tree from the bottom up, you're lion's tailing that tree. And what happens is, we can go over the science in that, but you increase the length of the lever arm. And when you increase the length of the lever arm, this is the same thing as using a cheater bar, right? So as you start increasing the length of the lever arm, then you multiply the force times the length of that lever arm, and you're going to have an increase in moment, whether it's torsional moment or bending moment, but ultimately you're breaking the tree apart. So you think you're doing somebody a favor by overlifting the hell out of this tree or stripping out the inside. You're not doing anybody any favor. You're setting the tree up for failure. You're setting the client up for a liability. You're setting your own company and yourself up for liability. Because if something happens there and they come to a professional and they say, what happened here? And I got to go testify, I'm going to tell the truth. And I'm going to tell them this tree was lion's tailed. This limb was had too much length of lever arm here, and that's the reason that it failed. And it's not an act of God. It's an act of you, because you screwed it up. So that's what I'm telling you is, don't go do things that you're not supposed to. Topping is something you probably don't see as much as we did for a really long time, but topping is a big problem. Okay, you go top a tree and you're creating all sorts of problems in that tree. And now the one thing is with topping is, immediately what it does is it shortens the length of the lever arm and reduces weight and wind cell area. So I cannot argue with the math there. You do initially decrease risk. Okay, and that's normally the goal in topping is, hey, I don't want this tree to fall over, hit my house, whatever it is. But what you've done structurally is you've screwed that tree up for life. And so by you going out and doing something that you weren't supposed to do and probably knew better, then you've screwed the tree up. And so it's going to be really difficult for somebody to come back and retrain that tree. The bigger problem with topping is not the immediate after the cut, what happens, it's the way that it responds, okay? If you've made really, really big heading cuts, then those heading cuts are all going to decay. Now they're also going to sprout because you've cut off the auxin that was flowing through there that prohibited all that sprout development. Now you've got a whole bunch of new sprouts that are going to develop on a stem that's decayed way up in the tree. So you got all this rapid growth. It's not attached very well, and it's on a decayed trunk. You're setting the tree up for failure. So I'm just telling you, don't call it something else and then just do it. And I see that happen where somebody, oh, well, this is called a crown reduction. Bull! It's not a crown reduction. You're topping. And if you're topping that tree and you know it's wrong and you're setting that tree up for failure, plus it's just ugly, right? So I'm passionate about that because I don't want the tree to be ugly. I don't want it to be set up for failure. I don't want it to increase the risk. So there are a lot of good things that you could do to the tree in the same amount of time, and let's just say for the same amount of money, for ease of conversation there, but for the same amount of money or the same amount of time, you could do something helpful for the tree. Well, let's do that versus something that's going to damage the tree and make the situation worse. So if you don't know what you're doing, then don't do it. I see a lot of people try to put cables and braces in trees. And if you don't know what you're doing, then you're going to make it worse. Okay? So you have to study that. You have to learn that. You have to have the standards. You have to have the BMPs. But ultimately, you need to know what you're doing. And don't just go out there and say, oh, well, the client wants me to brace their tree, so we're just going to drill some holes in there and do something. No, that's not the way to do it. But knowing what you're doing, you're going to be able to do it the right way. But the other part is, people are going to come to you to be able to do it. So I know supplemental support. Very few people know supplemental support. So they call me for supplemental support. We give them a price on it. Generally, they say, okay, well, that sounds fair, let's do it. But if they want to get other quotes, guess what? They can call around to 10 other tree services and may find 0 that actually know what they're doing or even want to bother with it. Most of them are just going to say, no, we don't do that. Okay? There are some that are going to say, oh yeah, we do that, and just try to figure it out on the fly. But guess what? I don't have much competition in that area because there's very few people that actually do that. And if they do it, then I've already given the client what to look for there. And I'm saying, hey, when you're talking to somebody else about this, if you're going to get other quotes, ask them these questions. And they ask them those questions and they come back and they go, man, I asked them those questions and they answered just like how you thought they would. And I don't want that person messing with my tree. And so I'm not going to tell you what those are because I don't want somebody just going around and basically finding their way around the professional way of doing something. I'm not trying to encourage that at all. I want people to know what they're doing. Just like if you were in any other trade or even ran a restaurant, the restaurant has to do things a certain way. They can't just keep feeding somebody alcohol and then they go crash their car. They can't just, feed you expired food or not cook certain foods and then it winds up getting you sick or whatever. They have to know what they're doing, okay? So we can talk about all the other things that come along with it, and those things are super important, okay? Probably, I don't know that you could say one's more important than the other, but probably more important to really know like all the soft skills and the management and figuring all that stuff out probably is going to be more important. But ultimately, you could go out of business if you're not doing things right. You could get sued. You could be shut down. You could, if you don't have the right insurance, then, there's a lot of reasons. Or if you're just not making money, then you're going to run out of money. Okay. You're going to run out of cash. But if you're out there doing the wrong thing, you're giving everybody in this industry a bad name. Okay. If you're going out and doing things wrong, trashing people's yards, tearing up people's yards, tearing up their trees, butchering things, you're not helping yourself. You're not helping anybody in this industry, and nobody wants you to be doing that. Okay. So study. Know what you're doing. This one video is not going to teach you everything that you need to know about arboriculture. You can't. It's not going to happen. You have to go out on your own. Fortunately for this industry, there is a path that you could go down. Okay, even if you are just totally against, becoming a certified arborist or something like that. You can still study, you can still learn, and you can still figure things out, and so you can absolutely learn more about the industry. So if you don't know what you're doing, then you're going to create a lot of problems. Now, if you don't know what you're doing and let me think of an example. If you mow somebody's grass wrong, okay, well, that's not the end of the world. We can actually replace grass. If you paint somebody's house wrong, well, maybe it cost a lot of money, but we can replace that, okay? With trees, unless it's a very small tree, you can't replace big mature trees. You can't go fix something that you screwed up, okay? No matter how good I am or another arborist is, we can't come behind you and fix certain things. Okay, big cuts is one of them. Okay, it's not like hair; it doesn't just grow back. Okay, if you do certain things, then we're not going to be able to come in behind you and fix it or help it. The other thing is, you can get somebody killed. Okay, we're working generally from heights with very sharp tools. You've got heavy wood, you've got spider lifts, bucket trucks, climbers. Like somebody could come out of the tree and hit the ground. A piece of wood can come out of the tree and land on somebody. You could cut a tree and it goes the wrong way. You could have a chainsaw kick back. There's a number of ways that somebody could get severely injured or die. And so if you don't know what you're doing and you put somebody in a situation where they can die, that's a major problem, okay? I don't think that you should do that. I don't think you should be allowed to do that. I'm not sitting here trying to advocate for some special government license or something like that, but man, you should not be allowed to put people in situations where they're in such a situation, they don't know what the heck they're doing. You don't know what you're doing. You're trying to give them advice, and they wind up, getting severely injured or dying as a result of you just not knowing what the hell you're doing. That's a problem, okay? And we should all discourage people from going into business and just doing it to make money, okay? We should all be passionate about it. Maybe some aren't as passionate as I am, and that's okay. But we should know what we're doing. We absolutely, for any other profession, it's not acceptable. You can't just go to a dentist and have somebody screw your teeth up, okay? And then we're just going to be okay with that. No, we're not going to be okay with that. And let's say you put grandma in a surgery and she goes in and they take out the spleen instead of her liver or whatever, right? They operate on the wrong thing. They cut off the left leg instead of the right leg or whatever, right? That's not acceptable. We're not going to allow that. And so we should not be allowing that in this industry. We should be calling each other out. We should 100% be encouraging people to become professional, not the other way around, okay? We should definitely be encouraging each other to get safe, to be better at what we're doing and about knowing what we're doing. And so even if all you're doing is removing trees, and I know that some trees can be very complicated, so I'm not trying to downplay that, but I say that because when you remove a tree, it's gone. Okay, there is no kill. You messed up and you killed the tree. Like, that tree's gone. You're removing it. Okay, so we can say we can simplify it down to that. But even just removing trees, there's a lot of ways to die. There's a lot of ways to damage other trees. There's a lot of ways to get somebody really, really hurt. And so if you don't know what should be implemented in the processes, the safety, how to do things, how trees react, what to look for in the tree, what a bifurcated union is, what may happen there if you load it up or try to rig from there, like all those things. What maybe hypoxylin or something, if you're trying to work on or say climb a tree that is infected by certain fungi and that tree falls apart while you're in it, well, that's a problem, right? I have two friends that are in wheelchairs right now from climbing trees. One of them was a tree that shouldn't have been climbed, and the other was something went wrong while he was up in that tree. And I'm not going to try to tell you they didn't know what they were doing, but they were doing something they shouldn't have been doing, and now there's a problem, okay? So you're going to feel really bad if somebody gets hurt or killed on your job, and you should, okay? So you might even wind up serving time if it's something that you did that was so bad. You may end up getting sued and losing everything that you have, your whole business, your house, your possessions, whatever, okay? So, but I think the more important thing is what happens to that person that is now stuck with their injury, or maybe they're gone forever, and that person's gone. Okay, now what? So everybody is somebody's child. It depends on how old you are. Most people are a parent, and we can argue whether you're a good parent or a bad parent, but ultimately, somebody needs you, and somebody needs that person. We don't need to devalue somebody and say, oh, well, your life's just not important, so get up here, and if something happens, then oh well, we're trying to make a buck, okay? So there is a proper way to do things for the tree and for the humans that are working on those trees. But I just want to make sure that everybody understands that I am 100% not just encouraging everybody to go get into the tree industry and, get under the thumb of your employer or go try to make as much money as possible, go do, whatever you want to. That's not it. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I want people to run professional tree services. Okay, do professional work, do safe work, provide a good, stable place of employment so that people can come in there and have opportunities to grow within that company, to better themselves, to make more money, to have a career, to be able to have direction in where they're going. Okay, that's what I'm trying to do. Not just say, hey, everybody should go get into the tree business because this is an easy way to make money or whatever. I'm not saying that, okay? That is not what I would suggest for anybody to do because it's a really, really bad idea. There are other ways that you could sit behind your desk and do something silly on the internet and make money and not get people killed and not damage living things like trees that, some may be hundreds or even thousands of years old, and you go do something stupid and screw the tree up. Okay? Don't do that. So that's the main thing is just know arboriculture. There's a lot of different aspects of arboriculture. Climbing is part of it. Removing, pruning, that's probably the most common. People are pruning limbs off of whatever, streets, power lines, buildings, whatever. But removals, obviously, stump grinding, stuff like that. But there's a whole lot more. We talked about supplemental support a little bit. There's air excavation. Again, with that, very few people do air excavation, but you can't just jump right out there and grab a air spade wand and a compressor and then figure it out. You have to know what you're doing, or you're going to wind up screwing the tree up. Okay, chemicals. You could definitely mess a lot of things up using the wrong chemicals, and so I just really want to encourage you to, before you jump into something, do it the right way and learn how to do it the right way. Some of that is going to be in reading. Some of that is going to be maybe there's helpful videos or books or how-to guides, ANSI standards, whatever. But a lot of that, we need more. We need somebody to walk us through how to do things a certain way, and maybe that's somebody that's already got a lot of experience in doing that. I can't teach you how to climb by giving you a book, right? It may help you, but somebody's going to have to get in the tree with you and actually work with you on that. I can't teach you supplemental support by just giving you the standards. Now, you need the standards, but I can't just give you the standards and say, go figure it out. There's a whole lot of things that that aren't in the standards. It's not going to tell you that, if you use a certain type of drill, then it's going to get stuck in the tree. I can't tell you that, the sawdust is going to pull in behind the flute and won't allow your bit to come out of the tree. I can't tell you that, exactly how to do certain things or what to look for or where you should put certain rods or cables or what type of, I'm going to have to work with you and show you that, generally, in person. And so, anyway, maybe I kind of went on a rant there a little bit, but some of this stuff you can learn, by book or video or something. But a lot of this stuff you're going to have to learn by working side by side with somebody that's already doing it. And so that is not some sort of hit on your character or pride or something. We don't know everything. Nobody knows everything. So we need to be making ourselves available. We need to be studying under somebody else. There's no way that any one person can know everything about anything, but definitely not everything. Does that make sense? Right? Is that a lot of anythings and everythings? So I want to encourage everybody to really study arboriculture, study trees, figure out, the major things that we need, figure out how they work, how they respond to certain cuts, all of that stuff. What chemicals you need to use. Tree ID is really important. Learning about trees is huge. We're going to have a whole video on tree risk assessment, but if you're going out and somebody's asking you questions about a tree and you have not gone through tree risk assessment qualification, you're probably giving them really bad information and setting them up and setting yourself up for some liability. And so the greatest thing about track is the language that it gets you using, and takes away, let's just say somebody says, oh, well, is this tree safe? And the language you might be using right now is, oh, yeah, that tree's safe. Or you may just err on the side of caution and say, oh, no tree's safe, right? And then, so you wind up removing all the trees, or they wind up staying. Well, guess what? Something happens to that tree. They're going to come back to you and they're going to say, hey, that guy, he told me that my tree was safe. He told me my tree wasn't going to fail, okay? Don't use that language. If you're not familiar with how to assess risk in trees, then don't do it. Just tell people, hey, I don't do that. I don't assess risk in trees. Until you go through and you learn about it, then you can work on that. Or you could recommend somebody. Maybe you could sub it out. There's all kind of different things that you could do. But there's a whole lot of ways to get somebody injured, get somebody killed, and a whole lot of ways to screw up the trees. And I'm sick of seeing screwed up trees. Hopefully you are too. But I don't want people going out there and just figuring out things on the fly, and then setting these trees up to where, okay, well now there's no fixing it. There's no way to bring the tree back from what it just went through from somebody that shouldn't have even been touching it. So let me see if there's anything else in my notes here. Lightning protection, structural pruning. Okay, structural pruning is huge, but don't think that you're just gonna read a Facebook blog or watch a YouTube video and know everything there is to know about structural pruning. You're going to wind up screwing people's trees up. So you need to really learn about structural pruning before you go and try to do it. Okay. Now that comes along with a lot of pruning, because if you think that you're just going to go in there and prune the tree and you wind up really screwing it up when you could have been doing structural pruning, well, you didn't do anybody any favors. You really created a problem. So anyway, I think every arborist, and this is just me talking, okay? You don't have to do this, but this is me talking. I think every arborist needs to understand basic tree biology. I think you need to understand basic pruning skills, and I think that you need to understand the safety requirements that come along with that. That's at a minimum, okay? And that's just to go do basic stuff. If you're going to do more advanced things, you're working with a crane, or you're working on, doing some special pruning or something, you're going to have an advanced level there, and it's going to take you getting off your bum and learning and figuring things out, not just hoping for the best, or not just going, well, I've been doing it this way for 30 years. Well, that doesn't help, because I can tell you the way that we did things 30 years ago, by the book 30 years ago, is wrong. Okay? Now, a lot of people weren't even doing things by the book back then. They were just figuring it out back then, and they've been doing it ever since. So it's way wrong. We need to constantly educate, constantly learn, constantly improve. But if you haven't even gotten to the point to where you know anything about trees, you shouldn't even be in the tree industry, okay? Maybe you need to go work for somebody. That's actually a really, really good plan, okay? If you're going to own a tree service, you should go work for someone else and do tree work for a professional company before you go out on your own. And so you need to learn the way that things are done, and you need to learn the way that things happen in the real world. And you go, oh man, you may realize, well, that wasn't really covered in the book, but we got to be really careful for that. We got to be careful not to flip over this piece of equipment, or not to drive this, or not to do this, or not to cut this way. There's a lot of things that you're going to learn working for somebody else. And if your plan is to go work for somebody else and then start your own business, hey, I don't think there's any problem with that. Now, maybe somebody won't like that. Maybe they'd be more reluctant, to kind of hold back and not train you. I wouldn't. If you told me, hey, my plan is to work here for 2 years and then go start my own tree service, awesome. I got you for 2 years, and we're going to work, and we're going to do a whole lot together. And then when that time comes, then you're going to go out on your own, or maybe we have the conversation and go, okay, your 2 years is past. Let's explore options for going out on your own, or maybe you think it's a better idea to continue working at our organization because what we offer, or maybe you just want to start doing side jobs or something. But somebody might take that differently. I understand that. Not everybody would want that. I think that most people would appreciate your honesty, but maybe you don't even have to have that conversation with them. Maybe it's not a lie. Maybe you don't have to say, I'm not going out on my own, whatever. Maybe you could just say, hey, I'm here to learn. I'm here to learn everything that I can. And I think a professional organization is going to take you under their wing, and they are going to show you the right way to do everything. Maybe it's because they're investing in you. Maybe it's just because they want to make sure that things are done the right way at their company. And if they don't show you that, then it's not going to be. And so, I've said it before. People say, oh, what if you put all this training into somebody and then they wind up leaving? Well, you know what? What if you don't train them and then they stay? Okay? And that's what we don't want. We don't want people to stick around and not know what in the heck they're doing, and then they go out and do something stupid here, and that's a reflection on our company. And so we don't want that. Nobody wants that. That's why they want to invest in you. And so if you are currently working for somewhere and you feel like you're not getting that, then you need to talk to somebody in management there, or potentially look for somewhere else to work. Okay. The other part is, if you're thinking about, going into this industry, or, maybe you've already started and you think, man, there's a whole lot that I don't know here. Like, it's not too late to go work for somebody else. Okay. You can definitely go work for somebody else and learn a whole lot there. So anyway, I'm not going to keep going. Learn trees, learn arboriculture. Figure it out before you go do it. Don't just go out there and wing it. You need to learn trees. You need to know what you're doing. Okay. So I think there's a lot of business things that can come from that too. You really need to learn a lot of the business stuff before you go into business as well. But maybe you're already in business and you're kind of figure that out. Maybe you're in business and you're stubborn like me and you want to learn trees as you're going. That's not a terrible path. Maybe you're going to learn business as you're going. That's not a terrible path either. That's probably the more common path that people take, is they jump into business and then they learn business as they go. So anyway, learn trees, get to know arboriculture.
Y'all be sure to go to the website, treebusiness.com. Check it out. Plenty of stuff there. Talk to you soon.
Maybe it's time for me to close my eyes one more time tonight. Moonlight creeping through my window, reminding me of an angel that I've seen watching over me as I sleep. And summer rain is falling down, striking the pavement and cooling the ground. Oh, as I drift off to sleep. Oh, as I drift off to sleep, knowing I'll be dreaming of you. Well, I'll be dreaming of you. Oh, I'll be dreaming of you. Oh, I'll be dreaming of you. Oh, yeah. A million visions, well, they fill my head. Some are distant, then they disappear. And some surround me, and they whisper in my ear. They're telling stories, and the stories they tell of my yesterday's love, lost and found, and bringing passion right back into my life. And I dream of a dream that lifts the darkness and shows me the light, and shows me I'll be kissed by an angel, shows me I'll be kissed by an angel, knowing I'll be dreaming of you. Well, I'll be dreaming of you. Oh, I'll be dreaming of you. Oh, I'll be dreaming. I can feel you all around me, but I don't want the sun to rise. I'm dreaming of you, and you're beautiful, and you're an angel in my eyes. Oh,